Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to CarrieLutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
Great news, we've got a sponsor. This show is now brought to you by Miles Franklin. And when it comes to protecting your wealth, you know there's nothing better than gold and silver. That's what I'm buying. I hope you're doing the same. And once you make the decision to buy gold and silver, there's no better place than Miles Franklin. Look, they've been in business 22 years. And the reason I'm a customer is because when you buy, they ship. Go to milesfranklin.com or call them at 800-822-8080 to get a free quote. 1490 WGCH, this is Kerry Lutz. You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. Time for another Triple Lutz report. So the stink, the whole commotion with Rush Limbaugh, you're probably wondering when it's going to end and how it's going to end. It's going to continue for a while because the progressives believe that they have Rush on the run. They're costing him money. He's losing advertisers right and left. They think that somehow they're winning this battle. And my personal feelings about Limbaugh, master broadcaster, he's mastered the medium. He is the best radio guy out there and arguably the best of all times. Whether you think Paul Harvey was better than Rush, that's just a matter of personal opinion. The fact of the matter is, Rush has built an empire using his voice. So being in the business, I respect that. But I have not agreed with his take on the economy and on politics for many, many years. Because to me, Rush is a conservative guardian. He is a gatekeeper of the status quo, and that means that he's in with the financial elite. You never hear him calling for abolition of the Federal Reserve. You seldom ever hear him talk about the damaging effects of inflation and expansive Fed monetary policy. Like I say, the gold standard, precious metals, he will accept advertising from precious metal sellers of questionable repute sometimes, but the fact of the matter is he's really for the status quo, and who can blame him? The status quo has treated him extremely well. In my opinion, like I've said many times, the debate is not right against left. That is framing by the elites to split, divide, and conquer the populace, to take us over, to strip our rights from us by deflecting, by shifting our attention to the wrong issues. The real question is, going back to Yaron Brook, Ayn Rand, it's man versus the state. To me, Yaron Brook's contention of we're not our brother's keepers, honestly, I agree with it to some extent, but to me, it's not the overarching issue. The overarching issue is the individual sovereign and supreme, or is he merely a vassal of his government? Are you a servant of the government? Do you work for the government? Do you work for yourself? Do you work for your family? Or do you work for the government? That's really what it comes down to. And you could call it pursuit of happiness, whatever, doesn't matter. That's the issue. And Rush touches upon it by talking about statism and collectivism, but he personalizes it, and to some extent that's what's required for compelling radio. But personalizing it to the point where if you believe something, he makes you feel like you're evil, that's not right. Because my feeling is that people have their beliefs, they're often based on emotions, and that's okay. To me, the key is educating them. And educating them doesn't start with insults. It starts with information, and it starts with candid self-assessment. It also has to start with a true diagnosis of the problem. And to give you a for instance of what he's going through right now, They don't care about what he said to this woman. What he said was wrong. Nobody can really dispute that. It was over the top. Yes, we can all object to the fact that she believes that the government is this huge piñata and it's every citizen's duty and right to go after that piñata with a baseball bat and try to slam it open and take as many benefits for themselves and their family and their friends as they possibly can. That is deplorable, and when that becomes the debate, then the statists lose. It's that simple. But the problem here is that the statists never engage in an honest debate. When was the last time you heard anybody from the current administration debating whether there should be a Department of Energy? When was the last time you heard anybody from the administration giving a candid assessment of the Department of Education's record of failure since its creation? When was the last time you heard anybody in the administration talk about government waste, that there are entire buildings full of bureaucrats scattered around the country that have no purpose for existing? And when was the last time from any party in any government that we've had in the past couple of generations since Reagan discuss what government should be doing in the first place? If you're like me, you have virtually no memory of it. Instead, when you make those questions, when you raise those questions, what should the government be doing, you're ridiculed. And it reminds me, I was involved in a local election in my town. The only time I ever intend to run for office. I will never do it again. And just picture yourself. Your town's a mess. Your streets are in a shocking state of disrepair. The town is going down, and it's a well-off town. There is absolutely no reason for this to be occurring other than the fact that we have horrible political leadership. So we put out an email blasting the state of the town's roads, the deplorable conditions, potholes, crumbling pavement. I mean, it was horrible. My fellow running mate put a couple of pictures in of car accidents. Now, obviously, if your roads are in bad condition and they're not being properly maintained, it's not a real stretch of the imagination to think that it might cause accidents, right? How many accidents occur from people swerving potholes, broken pavement, trying to get away from a sunken sewer, and they get into an accident? Happens every day, guaranteed. Doesn't get reported as such, but it happens all the time. So what do our opponents attack? They attack the pictures because they say the pictures were misleading. They never address the fact that the roads are crumbling, that they haven't put a cent into the roads in years, and that this deferred maintenance, their program, their accomplishment, that's the issue. No, they're deflecting because they don't want to discuss the core issue because it makes them look bad. And that is what's wrong with the political debate throughout the country. Nobody is willing to discuss the core issues, the real reasons why things are happening the way they are, the real reasons why the country's in decline, the real reasons why half the population is bankrupt and the other half are going bankrupt, the real reason that the redistributionist policies have been an unmitigated failure and disaster, that every program that FDR implemented during the New Deal is failing, whether it's Social Security, Fannie, Freddie, Medicare, Medicaid, you name it, and the programs that have been implemented in the 60s in the New Society under LBJ are also failing. And even one of the oldest government programs been around since the Republic was founded, the United States Postal Service, is in a protracted state of decline, and it too will require a government bailout. But that's not the issue that ever gets discussed. And those issues, honestly, aren't the real issue. The real issue is the government, what functions we want to assign to the government, and how we make sure that the government carries those functions out. And when they're not carrying the functions out, rather than just throwing more money at them, we actually reform it and go back to the fundamental question. The government cannot adequately run the Postal Service. Okay, we all agree on that. We know this is true. Prices have done nothing but go up in the past 50 years, whether it's unionization, excessive benefits, overcompensation of what for a lot of them are just they're glorified messengers, let's face it. And then the whole concept of the government monopoly never gets discussed except in wonkish publications. Like sometimes you'll see it in Barron's, other times you'll see it in the Manhattan Institute will talk about it, but otherwise it never gets discussed. That's what's wrong with the debate. The debate could be as vitriolic as you like, as contentious, as angry. I mean, the debate between Andrew Hamilton, and Thomas Jefferson was as vicious as any debate going on today. But the issue was always, should the government be doing this? Hamilton said it's necessary and proper. In order to collect customs duties, we need a Coast Guard. So he just started one up. And then in order to secure government debt, we should have a national bank. And he got Washington and the others to go ahead, and then they passed it. But those were the debates back then. The debate was a lot more meaningful. It wasn't he said, she said. It wasn't he called this person that, and therefore should be taken off the air. No, let's focus on the underlying issue, which is what are the rights of the individual? Does this policy that we're debating promote freedom or retard it? Once you break down an issue to its basic components, then a true debate can occur. We don't have political debate. We have just ad hominem attacks and vitriol and viciousness parading as a political debate. There's no political debate between the Democrats and the Republicans. They both want big government. There's no debate. And there's no debate between any of the current candidates, be it the incumbent or the wannabes. There's no debate. They're all in favor of big government. One or two of them might pay a little lip service to limited government, but push comes to shove, they're all part of the problem, not the solution. Getting back to Rush Limbaugh. So he's lost 20 or 30 or 40 advertisers. Big deal. The guy is a billionaire. If the left thinks that they're going to silence this man by driving him off the radio and by depriving him of an income stream, think again, guys. You are going to create a Frankenstein here. This is going to become your worst nightmare if, in the unlikelihood, you are able to get him off of the radio. This is a guy who's a billionaire. He has access to unlimited amounts of capital, and he's very internet savvy. So for him to simply take his show and put it on the internet or create a radio and television network, right now, he just has his soapbox, that's his show, and he has his newsletter, and he sells some iced tea. He's influential, but he is nowhere near as influential as he could be if he were to build an infrastructure from the ground up. And for him to raise $250 million, $500 million to set this infrastructure up, he could do that with 4 or 5 phone calls. The banks will put the money out there. The banks would gladly give him the money, private equity, hedge funds. He could write the check himself if he were so inclined. So what you have to realize, progressives out there, is that if you get what you want here, remember the old Confucius saying, make sure you know what you want because you just might get it. If you get him off the radio, which I don't think you're going to be able to do, it's going to be worse than ever because the guy can set up his own competing network, both a video network and an audio network, and he can build talent. He can recruit hosts who will be more offensive than him. He will create a juggernaut that will blow your minds. So you're better off just letting him stay on the radio. Now, if your real intention is to silence anyone who disagrees with you, who offends you, whose speech violates some concept of fairness or niceness or properness in your mind, then that's a different issue. Then what you really want is totalitarianism. You want the government to pick who can speak and who must remain silent. And if that's your real game, fess up to it now, because that is the height of anti-democratic. It is anti-individual. It is anti-freedom. And then you might as well just admit that you want everybody, every citizen, to become a vassal, a servant of the state. And my personal belief is that's your game. That's what you're after. That's the debate we haven't been having for the past 80 years. But that's the debate that Rush has helped elevate in perhaps an imperfect way, because it's not right against left. It's freedom versus tyranny. That's the debate. You guys should just come out and admit it, that you want the state to run everything, and then we can have a real debate about it. But until that happens, we're just going to see these little brush fires where, oh, Rush said something so mean he should be off the air, when talk show hosts all over the place say mean stuff every day on both the right and the left. And you know what? You don't have to listen to it. Turn it off. It doesn't matter. Right now, you got Rush exactly where you want him. You get him off the air, and all bets are off. You will rue the day that he ever questioned that young lady's integrity or moral values. You better think that through, because this war ain't going to work. Oh, and one other thing. These advertisers who are deserting him, they're going to be back. All right? If they're not back, there'll be 10 others to take their places. Because what you have to understand, and I know this is very difficult for statists to get through their mind, is there's a marketplace out there. Rush's ideas appeal to a large market, 15 to 20 million people who listen to him. And it just so happens that the people who listen to him have sufficient income and savings to purchase products and services of his advertisers and sponsors. If they didn't, those people wouldn't be there. And what his advertisers have realized is advertising on his show is the most effective way to reach you, the buying public. That's why they do it. It's not because they buy into his message. It's not because they care anything about him. It is strictly a business decision. And you boycotting, sending nasty emails, it'll work for a little while, but your interest will go elsewhere. This will pass. Those advertisers will be back, or other advertisers will be back to take their place. Look at Carbonite. They lost 10% of their value yesterday, and I would say a little bit of it is due to their backing out on Rush Limbaugh. So Carbonite's gone, but we have Mozy, and we have Crash Plan. We have so many other online backup services that will rush in to fill that vacuum. Mark my words. Another month, he will have more advertisers than ever. And looking at his stats on the web, his traffic to his website, forget it. There are not many websites out there, and take it from somebody who knows. But if you want to set up a website and get 16 million people a month to go to it, you're going to have a hard time. That is really hard to do. And yet, millions of people go to Rush's site per week, and for them to just tap in and listen to his show, it's not a big deal, especially with mobile media players, i.e. the iPhone and the Android. You get apps. You can listen to anything, anywhere. It's better than radio has ever been. And that's why reports of talk radio's demise and death are greatly premature. I'm here to prove the point. This is Kerry Lutz, been another Triple Lutz Report, signing off.